The air inside the alien casino was thick with smoke, lies, and danger. Strange lights blinked from the ceiling, and strange creatures yelled, laughed, and fought over coins and drinks. It was not a place for humans, not a place for kindness. But Jack walked in anyway. He was a tall, tired man with a rough beard and a scar above his eye. His jacket was old, his boots cracked, but his eyes were sharp. He had seen too much in the galaxy, and lost too much too. But today, something made him stop in the back of the casino. Past the noisy tables and drunk aliens was a small booth. It was filled with cages. Inside the cages were creatures, most strange, some dangerous, some just sad, slaves, pets, toys for the rich and cruel. Jack didn't look at the big ones. His eyes locked onto the smallest cage in the corner. It was a parrot cage, made of thin golden bars, swinging slowly on a chain. And inside it, curled in a ball, was a tiny alien girl. She was no taller than Jack's hand. Her skin was light violet. Glowing faintly under the dim lights, she had thin arms, long hair like silver threads, and big fearful eyes. She looked like a doll, too small to be real, but she was alive, and she was watching him. "Ah, you like that one?" said the dealer behind the booth. A fat alien with 4 eyes and sharp yellow teeth. "She's worthless, can't talk, doesn't fight, just cries and sleeps." He spat on the floor and laughed. "Picked her up from a dying planet. Figured she'd make a nice decoration." Jack didn't laugh. He stepped closer. The girl in the cage backed up, her tiny fingers grabbing the bars, her body shaking. But her eyes never left his. "What's her name?" Jack asked quietly. "No idea," the dealer shrugged. "She never speaks, maybe she's broken." He smirked. "Wanna buy her?" "Cheap, I promise." Jack didn't answer right away. He looked around. Everyone was busy gambling or shouting. No one cared about the girl in the cage, not even the guards. He leaned closer, whispering through the bars, "Can you hear me?" The girl blinked, but didn't move. Jack saw tears in her eyes. She was scared, but not empty. She was still thinking, still alive. He turned back to the dealer. "I'll take her." The dealer raised an eyebrow. Didn't think humans were into pocket pets. Jack's jaw tightened, but he stayed calm. "How much?" he asked. 2,000 credits, the dealer grinned. Jack scoffed. "That cage isn't worth 50. Then gamble for her," the dealer said with a grin, pulling out a dice box. "You win, she's yours. I get your jacket, boots, and every credit you have left." Jack hesitated. He didn't have much, just enough to fix his ship and maybe buy a hot meal. But he looked at the girl again. She wasn't blinking now. She was staring at the dice, as if willing him to win. Jack sighed. "Fine," he said, sitting down. "Let's roll." They played an old Earth dice game, simple, but easy to cheat. The dealer was fast, tricky with his fingers, but Jack had played in worse places with deadlier cheats. 3 rounds passed. The dealer won the first. Jack won the second. The last roll decided everything. The dealer smirked and rolled 12, a perfect score. He laughed, already reaching for Jack's jacket. Jack didn't flinch. He picked up the dice, blew on them like in the old days, and rolled 13. Impossible, unless. The dealer stared. Jack stared back. No one said a word. Then the dealer slammed his fist. "You cheated." Jack smiled coldly. "So, did you?" The dealer growled but waved his hand. "Fine. Take the stupid doll before I change my mind." Jack walked to the cage slowly. The girl was shaking, hiding her face in her hands. He opened the little door gently. "Hey," he whispered. "You're free now." She didn't move. He reached in carefully. His hand was huge next to her, but he was gentle. She crawled into his palm like a baby bird, still shaking. He held her close to his chest, wrapped her in a piece of cloth, and walked out of the casino. No one stopped him. No one cared. But the girl looked up once. Just before they left, her lips moved slightly, and though no sound came out, Jack could read it. "Thank you." He didn't know what she was or where she came from, but he knew one thing. He wasn't going to let anyone hurt her again. Not ever again. Jack didn't sleep that night. He sat in his ship's cockpit, staring at the stars beside him. Wrapped in a small soft cloth, the tiny alien girl slept inside a teacup. Her breathing was quiet. But her dreams were not. She kept shivering in her sleep. Outside the ship, trouble was growing. Inside his head, Jack couldn't stop asking the same question. What did I just risk my life for? The girl was strange, not just her size or her glowing skin. Something else felt wrong, or maybe right. Jack couldn't tell yet. He checked the sensors. No one was chasing him, not yet. But he knew the dealer wouldn't forget what happened at the casino. Cheating in that place meant death, and freeing a slave? That was worse than theft. He leaned back, took a deep breath, and looked at the girl again. Her hand twitched, and then she sat up. She looked around, eyes wide, body shaking. When she saw Jack, she backed up against the teacup wall, her lips trembling. "Easy," Jack said, keeping his voice calm. "You're safe now." She didn't answer, but her eyes followed his every move. Jack poured some water into a cap and placed it near her. She stared at it, then at him, still unsure. Jack sighed. "You don't have to trust me," he said softly. "But I didn't gamble for you to lock you in another cage." He paused. "I just couldn't walk away." The girl looked down, then slowly crawled toward the cap and drank. Her movements were graceful, almost royal, but her body was thin, too thin, like she hadn't eaten in days. Jack opened a protein pack, crushed a soft bite of food, and offered it on a spoon. She sniffed it, then snatched it with her hands. She ate like someone who'd never known safety, like someone who feared every bite might be her last. Jack watched her closely. There was something intelligent behind her fear, something more than instinct, something hidden. After a while, she stopped eating and sat in the spoon. Legs folded, she looked at him, then pointed to herself, and said one word, barely a whisper. "Velia." Jack blinked. That name, he had heard it before, long ago in a military station's black files. Velia was the name of a lost alien species, tiny, psychic, and once powerful. A species wiped out in a secret war. "You're Velia?" Jack asked. The girl nodded once, slowly, her eyes deep with sadness. She wasn't just a Velia. She was the last one, maybe the only one left in the galaxy. Jack's heart started to race. That meant she wasn't just a slave. She was a target, a treasure, and a threat to powerful people. If anyone found out she was alive. Suddenly, the alarm blared. Incoming vessel. The screen flashed red. Jack jumped up, looked at the radar. A fast ship was approaching from orbit. No ID, no signal. Pirate class. "Damn it," Jack muttered. "They found us." Velia stood in the spoon, eyes wide with fear. Jack grabbed her gently and placed her inside a small padded cup, sealing it shut. "Hold on," he whispered. "We're running." The enemy ship fired a warning shot, shaking Jack's ship. He started the engines, lifted off from the hangar, and jumped straight into low orbit. A chase began. Laser beams flew past them. Missing by inches, Jack twisted the controls, flying through asteroids, dodging rocks and fire. His old ship groaned, but it held together. Inside the cup, Velia was silent, but then something strange happened. The ship's dashboard flickered. Suddenly, Jack's targeting system locked on by itself. Perfect aim. "What the?" Jack said. He looked at the cup and saw her eyes glowing faintly through the cracks. She was helping him. Jack fired once. The enemy's wing exploded, forcing them to retreat. The enemy ship disappeared behind the moon. Damaged but not gone, Jack pulled back into safe space. He opened the cup slowly. Velia was breathing hard, holding her head. "You did that?" Jack asked, shocked. She nodded, barely able to sit upright. Her powers had cost her, but she had saved them both. Jack looked at her, really looked this time. She wasn't just rare, she was powerful, and the whole galaxy would kill to own her again. But Jack didn't want to own her. He wanted to protect her. She had gambled her secret for his life. Now he would gamble everything for hers. She wasn't speaking anymore, she was singing. But the sound didn't come from her mouth. It came from inside Jack's mind, like a melody only his thoughts could hear. And the words weren't just music, they were memories, not his. Hers, memories of war, of betrayal, of burning stars, and of an entire race screaming as they vanished. Jack stumbled back, hands on his head. "What are you doing?" he gasped, but the moment passed. The strange song stopped, and Velya, still no bigger than a teacup, sat quietly in his palm again. Blinking, she looked up at him, her eyes glowing softly. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to show you." "That," Jack stared at her, stunned. "That was real," he said slowly. "That was your memory," Velya nodded. "My people are gone," she said. "I am the only one left." Jack sat down, still trying to breathe normally. He had seen wars, pirates, dying planets, but nothing like what he just saw in her mind. A burning fleet, tiny warriors using light and mind as weapons, and then darkness, as if a hand had crushed the stars and erased their name from history. "You're not just rare," Jack said quietly. "You're ancient, powerful, dangerous." "No," Velya said, looking away. "I am not dangerous, but others want me to be." Jack believed her. He also knew it didn't matter what she wanted, the galaxy only saw her as a weapon or a prize, and soon they would come looking for her again. They reached a small moon orbiting a quiet gas planet. Jack docked his ship inside an abandoned refueling station. It was dark, silent, and forgotten, just what they needed. Inside the station, Velya finally walked freely. Jack had built her a little corner soft bed, tiny table, even a makeshift window. She loved it, but her face was still full of worry. "They will come," she said. "They always come." Jack looked at her seriously. "Let them," he replied. "They'll have to go through me first." Velya smiled for the first time. It was small but real. And something inside Jack softened that night, while Jack worked on ship repairs. A transmission crackled through the comms. He didn't answer at first, until he heard the voice. "Jack Strider, this is Captain Morik of the Imperial Bounty Division. We have reason to believe you're harboring a dangerous biological experiment. Turn her in now, and you walk free. Refuse, and you'll be hunted." Jack didn't reply. He smashed the console and turned to Velya. But she already knew. "They found us," she whispered. He nodded. "Yeah," he said. "But they'll wish they hadn't." The next day, Jack took Velya deeper into the station. She had started glowing more often now when she was scared, sad, or thinking deeply. He noticed she was changing, not just mentally, physically too. She was now the size of a baby rabbit. Her voice was clearer, her steps more balanced, like she was growing slowly day by day. "Why are you getting bigger?" he asked her. She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "I was built to adapt." Jack froze. "Built?" She nodded. "I was created, not born. I am the last attempt of my creators to survive. They gave me memories, power, and growth, but they made a mistake. They made me too human inside." Jack didn't know what to say. This little alien girl was a living weapon made from the ruins of a lost race, but all she wanted was warmth and freedom. Suddenly, a blast shook the station. Warning lights flashed. "Boarding team incoming." "The ship, I announced." Jack grabbed his blaster. "Stay hidden," he shouted, but Velya didn't move. She floated up, her body surrounded by soft energy, and said calmly, "They're not here for you." The first enemy broke through the outer lock. Jack fired once, knocking him out cold, but more followed. He couldn't stop them all. Then everything froze. The invaders stopped mid-step, blinking in confusion, and then turned around and walked back out the door like sleepwalkers. Velya landed softly behind Jack, her eyes glowing like twin moons. "I made them forget," she said, falling to her knees. "I don't like doing that." Jack caught her before she fell. She was tired, too tired for her small body. But she saved him again. "Next time, let me do the shooting," he whispered, holding her gently. She chuckled softly, and for the first time, leaned against him like a child would. Jack looked down at her. This was no pet, no science project. She was someone real, and he'd protect her. No matter what came next, the sound of bone cracking filled the hallway. Jack expected to see his own broken body on the floor, but instead he saw the bounty hunter suspended in midair, every muscle in his body twisted, frozen like he was, caught in invisible chains. And Velia, her eyes weren't just glowing, they were burning. She had never looked so small, and yet so terrifying. And when she spoke, it wasn't just in sound, it was in every direction at once. "I told you not to hurt him." Jack didn't remember falling, he just remembered the sharp blast, the burning wall, and the armored man who came through it. The bounty hunter was fast, brutal, and covered in thick red armor like a walking tank. Jack fired. Twice both shots bounced off, useless. The hunter grabbed him by the throat, lifting him like a rag doll. "You got something I want," the hunter growled. Jack kicked and struggled, but his vision began to blur. And then, the hunter stopped moving. His arm trembled, then bent backwards at a strange angle. He screamed, but no sound came out. Jack dropped to the floor, gasping for air. And in the middle of the room, floating just above the ground, was Velia. She wasn't glowing softly anymore. Now her body pulsed with raw light. Her silver hair floated around her face. Her tiny hand stretched forward, fingers trembling. But her voice was made of storm. "Leave him," she said. The bounty hunter tried to scream, but his mouth wouldn't move. His helmet cracked from the pressure, metal bending like soft plastic. Velia didn't blink. Her face looked calm, but her eyes were full of fear. Not fear of the hunter, fear of herself. She let out a final whisper, and the hunter flew backward through the metal wall, crashing into darkness. Silence followed. Jack coughed hard, holding his neck. When he looked up, Velia had collapsed. She was shaking badly, her small body flickering like a broken light. He ran to her, lifted her carefully in both hands. "Velia," he whispered, "are you all right?" She didn't answer. Her breathing was rough, like she had run 100 miles. She was conscious, but barely. Jack placed her on a small blanket and covered her. He didn't understand what had just happened. She had stopped a grown man in armor, and then passed out like a candle blown in the wind. After hours of silence, she opened her eyes again. Jack was sitting beside her, one hand gently resting near her arm. "I hurt him," she said softly. Jack nodded. "He would have killed me. I still hurt him," she whispered again, like it was something wrong. Jack looked at her seriously. "You protected someone," he said. "That's not the same as hurting for no reason." She turned away, but her voice trembled. "My creator said, power must obey orders, not feelings. I wasn't made to choose, only to destroy." Jack placed a hand beside her, palm open. "Then maybe you weren't made to be what they wanted. Maybe you were made to be something better." For the next few days, they stayed hidden. Jack repaired the ship in silence, but inside he was thinking deeply. Velia's power was far stronger than he guessed. And the more she used it, the more exhausted she became afterward, like a battery draining too fast, or a soul fighting to stay balanced. She was growing again too, now the size of a kitten, with longer limbs and sharper eyes. Her body was adapting to survive, but her heart still held the mind of a scared child. Jack knew others would come soon, stronger, faster, more violent. They wouldn't stop until Velia was taken apart, tested, or sold to the highest bidder. But he also knew something else. She had the power to fight back now. She just didn't believe she deserved to. One night, as the ship floated in orbit near a dead moon, Jack brought Velia to the control room. He pointed at the star map, full of glowing paths and routes. "Somewhere out there," he said, "is a place where they won't find you." Velia looked at the map, then back at him. "Would you leave me there?" she asked quietly. Jack's heart sank. "No," he said firmly. "I'd stay." She stepped onto his shoulder, leaning her tiny body against his neck. "You don't see me as a weapon," she said. "Or a monster," Jack nodded. "I see you as you." Velia looked out at the stars again. "If they come again," she said, "I'll protect you too, but next time. I won't cry afterward." Jack didn't say anything, but he knew the girl who once lived in a parrot cage was becoming something stronger, not a tool, not a pet, but someone willing to fight for what mattered. And now, the galaxy was running out of time. Every screen in the starport lit up at once. Bars, shipyards, terminals, even bathroom mirrors. Jack's face flashed across them all, but it wasn't just his face. It was hers. Velia's glowing image hovered in the corner of every wanted poster, only her face was blurred out, marked classified specimen, and above them both, in big red letters, "Capture alive 1 million credits." The bounty was everywhere now, not just whispered in the dark alleys of criminal worlds. Now it echoed through the clean halls of spaceports, across pirate ships, bounty guilds, and even black market screens. Jack stared at the blinking message, standing in the back corner of a dusty trade post. He wore a hood and kept his head down, but he knew the faces behind him were already memorizing his image. Velia sat inside a hidden compartment in his chest pouch, completely silent, but her pulse glowed softly through the fabric. She had seen the posters too. Jack exited fast, not even buying what he came for. They were being hunted not just by criminals now, but by governments, labs, and worse, scientists who never gave up their weapons. Inside the ship, Jack opened the pouch. Velia climbed out slowly, now the size of a toddler. She had grown again, but her energy was lower. She seemed heavier not just in body, but in spirit. "They put your face everywhere," she whispered. Jack sat on the floor with her, wiping dust from her hair. "Let them," he said. "They're only proving how scared they are." Velia didn't smile. Instead, she pulled up a screen, typing with her tiny fingers. She had started learning fast, too fast for her size or age. Jack had taught her basic Earth systems, but now she was doing things he didn't even know, rewriting code, unlocking star routes, bypassing restricted maps. "Where did you learn all this?" he asked one day. "I didn't learn," she said softly. "It was always inside me, waiting." Then she paused and added, "But I don't like using it, unless I have to." A few days later, they landed on a junk planet one filled with scrap metal and crashed ships. It was a safe place for now, full of scavengers and outlaws, but it also held secrets. One of them was an old contact of Jack's, Marta Kresh, a former weapons engineer turned smuggler. "Jack Strider?" she said, blinking at him as he entered her hidden base. "I thought you were dead or worse." "Still breathing," he replied. Then he showed her Velia. Marta's smile faded fast. "You brought her here?" Marta said in a harsh whisper. "She's not just a myth, is she?" Velia stood behind Jack's boot, quiet, but watching. Marta took a deep breath. "I saw her file once, in the labs. They didn't call her Velia, they called her Project Ember, the one they never finished." Jack frowned. "She's not a project. She's a person." Marta looked down at the glowing girl. "Well then you should know, every bounty hunter with a brain is chasing her." That night, Jack stared at the old stars through Marta's dome ceiling. Velia climbed into his lap, sitting cross-legged like a child. "Do you wish you left me in that cage?" she asked suddenly. Jack was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "No, that cage was your grave. But this?" He pointed to the sky. "This is life. Hard, painful, but real." Velia touched his wrist with her tiny hand. "You risked everything for me," she whispered. Jack smiled sadly. "I didn't know why back then," he said. "But now I do. You're worth it." The next morning, everything went wrong. A bounty team tracked Jack's ship through Marta's back-channel fuel logs. They didn't knock. They dropped EMP bombs and flooded the building with gas. Jack grabbed Velia and ran through the rear exit, but they were already waiting there. Tall, armored, faceless soldiers, not bounty hunters. Soldiers, government-funded. Silent, ruthless. Jack fired. But they had shields. He was hit in the leg hard. He fell, yelling in pain, holding Velia to his chest. "Go!" He screamed, "Run!" But she didn't move. She stood up, her eyes wide and bright like stars ready to burst. And then, the world bent. Time didn't stop, but light slowed. The soldiers fell back like waves crashing in reverse, their weapons dissolved into particles, their helmets cracked. Not from force, but from pressure inside their minds. Velia floated up slowly, glowing brighter than ever before. A soft hum filled the air, like a memory being born again, when she spoke. Her voice didn't echo, it rippled. "You will not take him," she said. "You will not take me." And the soldiers collapsed. One by one, unconscious, unharmed, but unable to remember why they came. Later, Jack limped toward the ship, Velia floating beside him, now the size of a small child. "You didn't hurt them," Jack said, surprised. "I don't want to be like them," she said, "even when I can." Jack looked at her in awe. "You're not a weapon," he said quietly. "You're hope." But deep in space, someone else had seen the transmission, someone who knew what Project Ember truly was, and she was coming. Not to destroy Velia, but to claim her, because she said, "I created her, and she belongs to me." The snowstorm howled outside. Like a living creature, Jack pushed open the rusted hatch with frozen fingers. Inside was a lab buried under ice, silent and dead. But as Velia stepped in, the walls lit up. One by one, machines turned on by themselves. Her reflection appeared on a cracked glass tube next to hundreds of failed clones. And on a dusty monitor, a woman's voice spoke. "Welcome back, Ember. We've been waiting for you." The planet had no name, just coordinates in a black file Jack stole from Marta. It wasn't listed on any map, not even the criminal ones. Covered in ice storms and surrounded by magnetic fog, it was perfect for hiding a secret. Jack didn't want to bring Velia there, but she insisted. "It's time I saw where I came from," she said, and Jack couldn't say no. The ship landed with a groan, buried quickly by blowing snow. Jack wrapped Velia in a heat cloth. She was the size of a small child now, but still so light in his arms, like a fragile dream trying to survive winter. They found the entrance under a frozen cliff, a round hatch, half buried in ice, blinking red. Velia placed her hand on it. The hatch opened instantly, without a code. Jack flinched. "Like it was waiting for you," he muttered. Velia said nothing, but her glowing eyes stared into the darkness ahead, as if her past was already calling her back. The lab wasn't just destroyed, it was abandoned in a rush. Chairs tipped over, monitors cracked, wires hanging like vines. But everything turned back on as soon as Velia stepped inside. Lights flickered, doors unlocked, files opened themselves. A voice played over the speakers, soft, cold, female. Subject EV-13 detected. Reinitializing memory core. Jack raised his blaster. Velia touched his hand. "It's okay," she whispered. "I know this place." "How?" Jack asked. I don't know," she said. "But my mind remembers, even when I don't." They walked past giant tubes, filled with dark water. Some were shattered, glass broken from the inside. Others held twisted copies of Velia's smaller, incomplete, lifeless. Jack turned away in horror. But Velia stopped in front of one. The clone inside looked almost like her, but its face was blank. Velia placed her hand on the glass and whispered, "I'm sorry." Suddenly, a loud click echoed across the lab. A holoscreen lit up, showing a middle-aged woman in a lab coat recorded long ago. She had short gray hair and dark eyes, and spoke with a voice like ice. "To whoever finds this, you are standing in the graveyard of the Ember Project. They told me to destroy it. I didn't. I preserved it because one of them survived." The screen flickered. Velia stepped closer, and the woman's face returned live this time, not recorded. She was older now, but still very real. And watching them, "Hello, Ember," she said, smiling softly. "You've grown." Jack stepped. In front of Velia, blaster raised. "Who the hell are you?" He snapped. The woman tilted her head. "I'm the one who made her," she said calmly. "And I've come to take her back." "No," Velia whispered behind Jack. "You don't own me anymore." The woman laughed gently. "Oh child, you were never owned, you were designed. You're not a person, you're a solution." Jack growled. "You made her to be a weapon." "Yes," the woman admitted, "but I failed. She developed empathy, attachment, emotion. Now she's broken." Velia's glow turned deep red. "I'm not broken," she said, stepping forward. "I'm free." The woman's face changed, her smile faded. "That freedom is a glitch," she said. "I can fix it. Or I can start over." Jack raised his blaster again. "You're not touching her." The woman's eyes narrowed. Asterisk, asterisk. "You think she loves you?" She snapped. "She only mimics human connection. It's in her programming." Velia stepped between them. "I don't mimic," she said, her voice firm. "I feel." And then something inside the lab began to rise. A hidden chamber below opened, revealing a large containment unit. Inside was a bigger, stronger clone, an unstable backup of Velia's early design. The clone opened its eyes dark, violent, empty. "Meet V0, the woman said coldly. "The first version. No feelings, no mercy." As alarms blared and the lights turned red, Jack grabbed Velia's hand. "Run," he said. "Now." But Velia stood firm, eyes locked on her broken copy. "If I run now," she whispered, "I'll always be running." She turned to Jack, her voice shaking. "This is where I was born. But it won't be where I die." The floor trembled as the clone stepped forward, and Velia, tired, scared, but stronger than ever, lifted her arms and faced it. "I was made to destroy," she said, "but I choose to protect." The clone stood tall, silent, and cold. Its face was Velia's, but without soul. Jack pointed his blaster, but Velia raised her hand. "No," she said. "This fight is mine." Then she stepped forward. No armor, no weapon, just a tiny glowing girl facing her own dark mirror. "I wasn't made to feel," she said, "but I chose to love, and with that." The final battle began, not for power, but for identity. The lab shook under their feet. Warning alarms flashing. V0, the clone, moved without hesitation, fast, brutal, pure logic. Velia dodged the first strike, barely, its fist smashed the floor where she had just stood. Dust filled the air, and Jack shouted her name, but she didn't turn. "I know what you are," Velia said as she floated up. "You're what I could have been. No fear, no doubt, but also no choice." The clone said nothing. It charged again, this time hitting her mid-air. Velia slammed into the wall and fell hard, coughing light from her mouth. Jack ran to help, but a force field slammed down between them. "Jack!" she cried. "Don't interfere, please." Jack slammed his fists against the glass. "You don't have to do this alone." "Yes, I do," she whispered, standing again. "Because I'm not just fighting her. I'm proving I exist." The woman who created her, Dr. Rickson, watched calmly from above. "Emotion always loses," she said. "Pain makes them weak. That's why you failed, Ember." Velia's glow turned golden. "I didn't fail," she said. "You made a machine. But I became me." The clone lunged again, this time faster, sharper. Velia closed her eyes, arms open, and did not fight back. The clone stopped just inches from her chest. It froze, twitching, confused. Velia whispered one word, straight into its mind: "Feel." And for the first time, Vo blinked. Its eyes, cold and dark, flickered. A soft tremble ran through its frame, like something inside had cracked. Then the clone screamed, not in rage, but in pain. It fell to its knees, grabbing its head. Velia stepped forward slowly and knelt beside it. "You weren't given a heart," she whispered. "But that doesn't mean you can't grow one." The clone looked at her, face torn between fury and confusion, and then, for a moment, It reached out, its fingers touched hers, and it glowed, not red, not dark, but soft, quiet blue then. It collapsed, fading like smoke, its body dissolving into particles, not destroyed, released. Like a prisoner finally set free, the force. Field dropped. Jack ran to Velia, holding her close. She was shaking, weak but alive. "You did it," he said. She looked up. "No," she said, "we did." Above them, Dr. Rickson's screen cracked. "No," she hissed, "you're not. Free, you're mine. You belong to." Jack pulled out a small detonator. "You belong to no one," he said, pressing the button. The lab shook violently as the self-destruct charges Marta gave him earlier went off. He grabbed Velia and ran through the escape tunnel as flames roared behind them. The ship lifted from the snow just as the lab exploded behind them. Fire lit the sky, erasing every last secret of Project Ember. Velia watched through the window, silent for a long time. "Is it really over?" she asked softly. Jack looked at her. "No," he said, "but the running is. Now, we choose where to go next." Velia smiled weakly, leaning her head on his arm, then whispered, "Jack, yeah? Can I ask something?" He nodded. "Will you be my father?" She said quietly, "Not by code, but by choice." Jack's heart stopped for a second. Then he smiled big, real, and full of emotion. He pulled her into his chest and said, "You already are my daughter." Years later, a legend spread across the stars of a strange little girl glowing like a star. And the human who raised her like family. They weren't warriors or rulers, but everywhere they went, they brought hope. Some still looked for her, called her dangerous. Others told stories of how she stopped battles with words, not weapons. And the parrot cage where she was once kept? Jack kept it, not as a prison, but as a reminder that even something small, fragile, and forgotten can grow into something powerful and choose humanity when given the chance.